Hey guys, Gaijin Hunter here, and we're back with a new 10-page spread of news in the weekly Famistu, and this thing just came out. So I haven't even read it yet. We're going to be reading it together. I just skim read the page, and that was it. So this is going to be a really exciting issue, so let's go down and enjoy it together. So this is the first 2-page spread. It's really cool looking. What it says down here in the middle front, just saying 4 different hunting styles that totally changed the hunting action, which is going to be really great. So this page is just going over the 4 hunting styles that we already knew about, but they haven't named them all. So let's go through them. So up here in the upper left, we just have that awesome new key art that they had. I do love the idea of the gunner flying up here, demonstrating the aerial hunting style. I'm not going to read any of the fluff, all the stuff that we already know. So what I've been calling legacy style, they're calling the guild style. So this is the exact same controls, the same move set. I'm sure they might change a little bit, but this is pretty much using the weapon how it's always been, how you're used to it. The other styles change up the moves that you can do, the powers that you have. This is the one for people who don't want a big change. They've recommended that maybe some serious veterans might enjoy starting out with guild style, and then as you progress in the game and you unlock new super skills, that it might encourage the player to try out a different style or try out different skills, and then branch off from there. I won't though. I'm going to be going straight for the new stuff. And up here we have some really cool pictures. So we have what they're calling this striker style. So this is what they were talking about, the style in which it's really focused around the super skills and really taking full advantage of them. So this is actually saying down here that compared to the other styles, it has an actual simplistic moveset, but as a benefit, you can set up to 3 super skills at once. So this is really for people who just really want to focus on maximizing those super skills. Now I'm really interested in what they say that it's a comparatively simple control scheme. It makes it sound like they've removed certain moves, and it's sort of a give and sacrifice. So this is pretty cool and interesting. I'm interested to see how that goes. Then of course we have the aerial style, which they've been showing off in their demo videos, which is really cool. So we already know from the last video that it gives you a jumping move, which we don't know how to do it yet, but my guess is it's B twice. But you do it a jump forward somersault, and if you hit a monster, you'll use them as a sort of jumping stone, and you'll jump up in the air, and you can attack their back, their tail, their head, areas that you normally couldn't hit, which is really cool. And finally, we get some information about the 4th style, which they keep calling the technical style, but now they've given a name called the Bushido style. Now, in case you guys don't know the word Bushido, it refers to sort of like the way of the warrior or the samurai in Japan. So it's a very it's very Japanese. I have no idea what they'll call this in English if and when they bring it over to the West. So this is interesting. So they say the Bushido style is all about counterattacking. So after you've sort of countered or moved through an enemy attack, you then follow up with an incredibly sharp and, I'm assuming, fast counterattack. So this almost looks like it gives you a counterattack move that if you do it through one of their attacks, that it ends up activating. So for someone like me who likes lancing, like guard lancing and evade lancing, this style looks like it's going to be pretty damn cool. So let's go to the next page. Okay, and the next 2 pages are filled with information, so let's just go through them. I'm going to be as concise as I can without leaving out any information. So this upper left section here is talking about the super skills. Now note, in Japanese they're called kariwaza, which means hunting skill. But in order to make it more easier for people to understand, because it's something that you build up a gauge and then you activate and it's a super powerful attack, I'm calling them super skills. It's just something I coined, it's not an official term. So as they say here, is as you hit a monster or perhaps other actions or other conditions, it will build up the gauge for your super skills. Now if you notice that they do mention elsewhere on this page that they're really not touching the top screen. The design is the same that it's always been, but the bottom screen is getting a complete remake. So they said there's lots of different customization options that you're going to have in this game. So down here we can see 3 different slots for super skills. Now obviously they were talking about in the previous page that the striker hunting style would allow you to equip 3. So my guess is this means that under normal circumstances you're able to equip 2. Anyway, so as you build it up and it goes yellow, once it's charged, it turns red over here. And once it turns red, all you have to do is tap it and it activates the skill. Now, as we saw in the previous gameplay video from Nico Nico, you're able to activate these skills probably even with your weapon sheathed, which is really cool. Now, they do note here that the skills still take up all the gauge whether you hit or miss, so you do need to be careful when you use these things. Now, here they're talking about there's actually two different types of super skills. There are ones that are specific to that weapon. For example, it says the Energy Blade. The Energy Blade is a charge blade only super skill that belongs to that weapon. But there are also skills that apply to all 14 weapons. And the one that they're hinting and showing off here is called Absolute Evasion. Now, they're not actually saying what it is. My guess is that it's just a very long evasion. That's almost like a Superman dive or something. I have no idea. That lets you evade something that is normally very long or very powerful. I don't know, but it seems really cool. So it looks like they have a lot of information that they're still not sharing about the system, so I'm very excited. Okay, now down here we're going to start going over one super skill for each of the 14 weapons. So I won't translate any of this stuff that just describes the greatsword because I'm assuming all of you already know about it. I really love this picture and I love the design of this greatsword. So this is the one that we saw in the first gameplay trailer. So what this move is a super swipe. That's the type of large move that you do after a charged hit. But if you hit the monster, if you noticed in the video before that he charges the energy into his almost body or his blade. And what it does is it creates a sort of charged state. So that when you do your next super swipe, it's super duper powerful. Now, if you guys played Greatsword and Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, you'll know that these large swipes are very powerful and can definitely be utilized. Especially like imagine after a mount, you do a triple charge followed up by a super strike. If you already have pre-charged your hunter before that, you're going to be doing ridiculous amounts of damage. So this is cool. So this is the longsword. In the longsword, they're just talking about the skill that we saw in the video as well, which he does a sort of very cool, slow, circular movement with the blade and then a quick slash downward. If you hit the monster for a short or who knows how long period of time, your spirit gauge stays at max. Now, I do like that they're writing max here because a lot of people don't know that when it's max, you actually do slightly more damage. So they're going to allow it to be max. Now, one of the things that this tells me is that if this thing is max and you have a monster that's down, you can just spam the spirit combos and get up to a red gauge quite fast because you don't have to worry about ever running out of spirit energy while this move is active. So this is very cool. Now we're going over here. Now this is exciting. So this is the sword and shield, but before they talk about the super skill for the sword and shield, they're actually revealing that they have a new type of item in this game. And what these are certain types of, it looks like a little juice. But what it is, it almost works like a wise stone, where you drink or you use the item, and it ends up applying a liquid on your blade. Like for example, we saw the green blade, the blue blade, the red blade. So I think this is their answering to weapon honing as actual consumable items. So this item that they're using here is actually called Affinity, almost like blade sharpening medicine or whatever. So this will temporarily raise the affinity of your weapon. Again, this is crazy. I mean, the amount of timing that you can do, especially with mounting and planning out your thing, you can then give boost to your weapons for a temporary period of time. For example, if you needed to heal up, you can probably drink that life, put the life powder on it or the life juice, and then it's going to be like weapon honing where you hit a monster and it heals you or something. So this is really cool, and this is really going to define sword and shield again, because as they're putting here, it's still the only weapon that you can use items while it's unsheathed, which means that you can really take advantage of these consumable items to get buffs. So that is cool. And then here they're just talking about that round slash, which we had already seen. So it's just a very wide-reaching area of attack, which is something that the sword and shield was missing. Then over here we have the dual blades, and the dual blades, this is so cool looking. It doesn't look like there's any major change, at least they're not talking about it here. And then this is just saying that move we saw where he hit he jumped back and jumped forward and hit again. It's just a very long ground combo that does a lot of big damage. So very cool if you want to get in a lot of hits and big damage. Down here we have the good old hammer, which, I mean, look at the velocity on this thing. It looks like it really hurts, huh? And they're just talking about the hammer here. And this is what they're calling the spinning meteor. So it's just that huge spinning attack, and you hit them and it can cause a huge KO. So we already knew that. Nothing really new there. Now this, as for me, I'm a huge horn user, so this is super exciting. But this is the hunting horn, and this thing looks gorgeous. They've added in a new system called the double note. And this isn't like the double note, like the double note where you did it in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. This is, they say it's kind of difficult and it's going to take practice for people to really master. But if you play a song, for example, he's doing movement up here. But if you do a song by doing the double notes, which is hitting 2 attacks in a row. So, for example, if you hit XX within a certain period of time, instead of producing 1 note, it produces 2. So if you can do that and then you play songs, you're essentially playing a song. You're playing double the hits in order to play 1 song, right? So for here, he's doing an X attack 4 times to play a song which is movement up, which only requires 2. But if you play using double notes, what it does is it encores the song that you last played. So I'll say that again. If you use an attack and you do it fast enough in a row, it will generate a double note. And if you play a song using double notes, it will encore the song you last played. So this is very technical, and I really like it. I mean, that means that you can really set up, if you want to do like attack up large, you can do that once or twice, and then later on when you need to do movement up again, if you know that your encore is still active, you can then make sure that you play it with double notes, and that will allow you to get a double dip, which is super cool. And this is just the shockwave attack that they were talking about, where you do a spin and you do this huge sonic boom burst, which knocks over enemies. So very cool. Let's go to the next page. Okay, now this is the next page, and there is again a ton of information, so let's go over it without taking too long. Okay, up to the left here, and we can see Dragonfly's new lance, which is really cool. He almost looks like a Japanese superhero, huh? So this is the lance. Now they did mention here that they added a new move, and this is kind of hard to understand without seeing it in the game. But if you guys played Lance, you'll know that you do a 1, 2, 3 hit. So they've added in a new type of finishing charge move that you can do on the 3rd hit that allows you to either keep wailing on a certain spot with big damage, or to switch things up. So it sounds almost like with the sword and shield, how you can do the backstep in the middle of a combo. It almost sounds like they added in like a charge attack or something. But we don't know. So it's going to be really interesting to find out what the heck this is talking about, because just from the Japanese, it's a little hard for me to understand. The super skill that they're showing, we've seen before, called the Shield Assault. So this is a charge forward that's really fast and dynamic. And the main point of this one is that you're running forward with your shield outward. So you're actually guarding the entire time. So they said that this is really good if you're in a pretty desperate situation. It's a pretty good attack to use. Now here's the gun lance, and they finally are answering the question that we've all been wondering, which is this new system called the heat gauge. So the heat gauge, and this is a lot of us were suspecting this. It represents the attack power of your shells, and they go from red to orange to yellow, and I imagine there's white as well. So pretty much this represents the power of your shelling, and as you shell over and over again, it starts to move over to the right, which makes it weaker. If you run out completely, it actually goes overheat, and you can't shell at all. They say that by doing normal attacks or by letting time go by, it will start to return back to the left-hand side. So I think they're trying to encourage gun lancers to attack more often, and I think maybe if the bar is, they're showing all the same here, but maybe certain gun lances have better bars. Maybe that can be a new differentiating factor, instead of just saying this is level 4, this is level 5, okay, level 5 is the best. The special attack here is just that super blow-up attack that they were doing in the gameplay that we saw recently. Down here we have the switch axe, which is looking darn cool. And there's no new news here about any new moves. And then the finishing move is just an alternate between the sword and the axe with a giant finisher. So cool stuff there. This is the charge blade, or they call it in Japanese the charge axe. And they're just stressing here again that going into shield boost mode is the key. It makes your axe more powerful and makes your attacks also more stronger. And this is just how about that energy blade attack, which is what we saw in the trailer, where a lot of energy comes out and you just kind of like a back smash. Down here they're just mentioning that, you know, for a gun lance they've added in the new heat gauge, so it's something that people really need to be careful about so they don't overheat. Okay, going up here we now have the insect glaive. So they finally do explain what this little new bar down here is. So what this is actually, it's not a penalty thing like the gun lance gauges. This is actually for usability. It represents your Kinsects stamina. So each time you call it out, it can go after the monster, right? If you call it out too many times, if you've played Insect Glaive, you'll know, but it's like you see the head, you say go for it, and all of a sudden the bug just doesn't go. And it's really frustrating because you don't know what's going on. What is generally happening is that you're running out of stamina, and so it can't listen to you. So they've made it now visual, so you know, okay, if I have stamina left, I can send my Kinsect out forward, and he's going to fly. So that's cool. And then this is just that special attack where he thrusts it in the ground and these thunder bugs kind of gather around the hunter. Now, I was wrong. I was a little confused by what Tsujimoto-san was saying in the background during his gameplay video, but it does not hurt the hunter. What it does is it puts this almost revolving bulb of bugs around you, and if you're next to an enemy or a monster, it will hit them and will do damage. Now, a lot of the Japanese players have been complaining that this was such a huge motion value, and it took so long to do, that this kind of seemed pathetic. So I guess they're guessing, and I guess as well, is that these bugs are really powerful, but time will tell and we'll see. Now, I gotta say, the Bubbles bow outfit is looking damn good. That's awesome. So this is the bow. And they've added in a new basic move for the bow called, if you do 2 back steps in a row, you do what they call a back dive, which your hunter does a kind of larger dive to the back, and then instantly charges a level 3 shot. So this is going to be a new, both evasive and aggressive move. I can see that they're trying to bust up, really power up the gunner weapons to encourage people to play them. So again, if you see like he's pulling out a rock here, do 2 back steps and you'll jump back even further and charge a level 3 shot, which you can then just wham in their face. So this is going to be a lot of fun. This is the move that we saw in the very first trailer. So this super skill is called the Axle Rain. So basically you shoot a special arrow up in the air, which then rains down a special pack powder on your hunter. And they're saying that it has various effects, such as increasing your movement speed, which is super appealing, or even increasing or decreasing the charge time that you need for shots. So it's almost like a medicine for both focus and also, like the horn, you can move faster with the bow. So this is incredibly exciting. You can see here where, like, if you were to do a skill style that was based on getting this off a lot, you could really pack a whole different armor set that really focuses on this kind of stuff, and make your own style, which is really cool. So here's the light bowgun, and they mentioned, and this is a little hard to understand, but they mentioned that the light bowgun and heavy bowgun get 2 new moves that didn't exist in previous games. The first one is what they're calling internally loaded bullets. So these are bullets that you can it's already set per your bowgun. It tells you what type it is, and then you can shoot it. And these seem to be very special bullets. For example, they're using, I guess this is the Dragonfly light bowgun, and what it says here is Tsugeki Dan. Tsugeki is the word for weakness exploit, and Dan is shot. So it almost looks like this shot does extra damage if you hit a weak point, which is really cool. He's hitting I think a Tetsukabra's face here, or Ketchawatch's head, I'm sorry. So I think this is a new type of bullet, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a special type that is already set, saying that this has it internal. So it's not something that you need to probably reload. It's probably just there that you can use. The other move here, I'm going to jump over here to the heavy bowgun, is that there's jump attacks in Monster Hunter for Ultimate, and there are the same jump attacks in Monster Hunter Cross. Instead of just being able to reload in the air, you're now able to shoot your bowgun as well. And this is where they're saying if mixed with the aerial style, that's what allows you to do, you can jump up in the air and then shoot in the air. So in order to get that realized, I think they added in this new system, which is really cool. For this one, it's just a super skill where you shoot off a shot in the distance and it blows up. And the same thing goes for the supernova attack for the heavy bowgun. It's just a huge, explosive, powerful attack. So, pretty cool. Okay, on the next 2 pages, they're covering one of the other 4 main monsters in the game, which is this huge guy, which we called Popodrome. But he now has a name called Gamuto. Gamuto. I'm just going to call him Gamuto. But it's Gamuto, like a U with like a dash above it. Anyways, let's go over what he does. So they're just talking about the fact that he's actually not a carnivore, he's an herbivore. But when he feels threatened, he likes to kick butt. And he uses his nose actually for most of his attacks, which is really interesting. So let's go over here and check them out. So attack number 1, they call it the snipe breath. So what he does is he uses his nose to sort of form this ice ball, which he then throws at you. And they said because it's called snipe, you can guess this thing really is like a homing. It's hard to avoid. So he seems like he's going to be a real pain. His next one is a suck-in attack. So he actually starts sucking in air with his nose, which you can actually get trapped in. And you can bet that if you get stuck in there, he's going to follow up with his third attack, which is his forward breath. So he spits out blah out of his nose here. And if you're caught in it, I think you're in trouble. Might be a good chance to use that absolute evade, if you know what I mean. And the fourth here, it's a slam with his nose. So he just takes his nose and he slams it down the ground really hard. Over here, they're talking about his ability to throw snowballs. So he uses his nose to sort of gather the snow and heave it up. And if you get hit by it, you do get snow blight. So you get snowman, which is a pain. This is, again, just the render. He's really cool. And if you notice here, and they mention it as well, that he has sort of icy snow guarding his legs. So my guess is that you have to break these off in order to then break his legs. And I bet his legs are going to be good materials for his weapons. And here on the right, they're just talking about the snowy field or the snowy mountain. Now this is a map back in Monster Hunter, the 2nd generation. So you'll recognize this stuff. But they said that they have done a complete facelift of this map now. So they've added in a lot of areas where you can jump off of. They've added in areas where you can climb up and stuff like that. And then they also showed off that you have this other monster. I think it's called Geonos. I think the Geodome or something like that in English. You'll have to forgive me for not knowing. But whatever that thing is, it's back as well. And that's it really. But really cool information on the big mammoth guy. I'm super excited. Okay, and these are the final 2 pages, and this new monster that they're showing could be the coolest news of this reveal yet. So let's go over and move to this new monster. So this is the great owl that we saw. It's a new bird wyvern monster. It looks like a badass. And the thing is that it's filled with all sorts of new status ailments. So they mentioned that it's almost like the dark sorcerer of the prehistoric forest. So this thing appears in the forest, likes to move around in dark areas, and it's got claws on its wings, and when it gets enraged, the claws kind of like, they get even longer, and it gets really, really feisty with you. They even mentioned that, and I'm sorry, his name is Hororo-Horuru. I know that's really hard to say, guys, but Hororo-Horuru. That's his name. We could probably just call him Hororo, but I guess the Japanese R is hard to pronounce, and Hororo, or whatever you would say in English, would sound a little weird, so maybe we just call him HoHo. I don't know. HoHo would be pretty funny. Anyway, they said that they've even added things where like he can turn his head around 360 degrees like real owls, which they think is really fun to see. And he's just a new, colorful, cool monster. So there's 2 new status effects that this thing can do. One of them is, I mean, it's supposed to have a powder, which you see here, this yellow stuff. And the way they describe it is the same way that the powder of the Gore Magala works, where it spreads them out by its attacks, and if you get hit by it, it makes you unaware of what's in front of you and what's behind you. You get this like question mark above your hunter or over here, and they're not actually saying what it does, but I don't know whether or not it. My guess is that, you know, like when you're in the gathering hall and you eat and you get drunk and your hunter starts stumbling left and right as they try to walk. My guess is it might do something like that, but they said it's still a great mystery, just like the Gormagara, and they're researching it still, but all they know is don't get stuck in it. So that's pretty cool. Now this looks really nasty. So it can send out an ultrasound wave, which it shoots out like a laser. And if you get hit by it, you end up going into a new status called pinchi. And pinch means in Japanese to be sort of in deep trouble, to be in a very desperate situation. So they said they're not giving any information at all on what it does. So we can only guess. But this looks like this is going to be one heck of a painful monster to deal with. My only hope is that with Narga Kuga back, if they have the Lucent one, that you can then make his armor, which negates all status effects, and maybe then you can go beat up on HoHo. And then over here we just have some great, nothing really new, just some images of returning monsters. So we have a Narga Kuga, which I know everyone's really excited about, and I do plan on making a video soon with everyone's comments as well on what makes this monster so darn special. But it is special, so it's cool to see him back. And they were mentioning down in the comments from the director that they have made him so he can utilize the terrain to do jumping attacks on multi-tiered elevation. So that'll be really cool to see what they did with him. I think they did a great job with Zinogre, so it'll be cool to see what they do with Narga. And then we have the ever annoying, and I know Yuri loves him, the Yian Garuga, and he is definitely coming back as well. So, hey, at least you get high-grade earplugs, right, guys? And they said there's even more information coming within a following few days, and to look forward to it. Now, when they say, you know, in upcoming days, they generally mean only like a week or two. So it looks like they're going to be ramping up. They could be hinting on the styles that they're going to be showing off next week on the official website, which I will have videos on. But I don't know. We'll have to stay tuned and find out. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the Famistu news. I hope you enjoyed reading it with me in a way. And I hope you are excited as I am. And remember, on Twitter, add the tag MHX for the West as one word. Monster Hunter Cross for the West. Let's let Capcom know that we want this game. We don't want to wait for an ultimate version if there is one, or if there's not one. They need to bring this stuff over. This game looks awesome. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the news, and happy hunting.